Hello and welcome to Your Band Sucks at Business, a podcast on the business of running a band. My name is Malcolm Onflood. I'm here with my co-host, Marcus Manhas. How you doing, Marcus?
Yep, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, man.
Nice. I see you're in sunny Cancun. Your Zoom background.
We've got our virtual backgrounds going. I think you're in the Vatican, maybe.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I'm into Frisbee golf. That's going to be our useless banter for today.
You're a frolfer. Okay, Frisbee golf is so fun.
So fun.
Remember when we were on Main Island back a few years ago?
Yes.
And I don't think you came with us, but Sam and I went and they had a Frisbee golf course there, and I'd never done it before, but it was probably one of the best new sports that I've tried in the past 10 years. It's so fun.
It's a great way to drink beer, is what I've discovered.
There you go.
But I went and bought some Frisbees. I got like 2 different drivers. It's sick. If nobody knows what we're talking about, you're throwing Frisbee discs at targets pretty much. But the particular course I'm on is like kind of like pretty sketchy hiking at the same time. It's pretty intense.
Is it on Maple Mountain?
It is.
Yeah, I've heard about that one.
It's great. It's fantastic.
You know what's funny? This must be in the past week, right?
2 weeks now.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna say you didn't mention it last week. So I was gonna say it's so funny to go from like 0 to like having a quiver of Frisbees.
That's how I am with shit though. I like get so obsessed with it. I'm like watching YouTube videos on throwing technique and stuff.
Totally. I do the same thing, man. And I feel I feel bad about it sometimes. I'm like, man, I just get completely enthralled with something new, and that's all I care about for like a couple weeks.
Right. Well, we can tie this into something that's useful for our audience maybe. There's like the opportunity cost of spending so much time researching something that might not stick is like why I feel guilty about it sometimes. And sometimes the investment costs. Like, so I don't know, maybe you get into snowboarding and you like buy just oodles of new snowboarding gear or something, and then like get a bunch of lessons or spend so much time researching which board to get, and then you just don't really dig it that much, so you never go again. Like, that is the kind of stuff that is worth trying to avoid. And musicians are totally guilty of that. They're like, they spend like 3 days researching which distortion pedal they're going to buy. Like, well,
yeah,
that'll never pay for itself.
Yeah, instead of just going to like your local music store and trying something, you watch like countless YouTube videos of people playing like Ibanez through a fucking DS1, and you're like, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work for me on my Telecaster, but yeah.
Totally. Anyways, that is not what today's episode is about. Quick aside, 5-step release guide. We have this PDF little mini ebook thing, and it's for 5 steps to successfully releasing a single. If you want that, hit us up pretty much any way you want. Instagram is the way I would recommend. Come find us at Your Band Sucks at Business on Instagram and shoot us a DM, and we'll get it over to you. Or you can go to our website and reach out there. And people have been finding that helpful. I do have plans to update it with like a Spotify specific section very soon. So get on to that now, and you'll be updated automatically. And this is kind of related to Spotify. Actually, today we're talking about SubmitHub, which is a service you can use to try and pitch your music to playlists. And it's not just Spotify, but a lot of what people aim for on there is Spotify. And Marcus has some experience with this. So it's going to be me kind of asking him questions and getting his anecdotal kind of experience and what worked for him, what didn't work, and all that. Quick aside, this is actually the 50th episode of Your Band Sucks at Business that we're recording right now. Marcus, quick cheers.
Cheers. I have water. Cheers.
I got like the last sip of my coffee.
Nice.
But we're going to be releasing this as our 49th episode because we did a guest episode last week, the actual 49, and we decided we want that to be like the big 5-0. We're really excited about that episode. It's probably also our longest episode ever. So that'll give our editor, Chris, another week to edit it. So love you, buddy.
Yeah. And also I can't be the 5-0. People will be very disappointed. And for our 50th episode.
But yeah, just wanted people to be aware of that, and that there's a little bit of like time inception stuff going on. Have you seen Tenet? Quick, another waste of people's time.
Tenet,
the new Christopher Nolan movie.
Oh, no, I haven't. No.
Sick. Super sick.
I'm planning on it, though.
But okay, let's not go down that rabbit hole because it's the most confusing film I've ever seen.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So, SubmitHub. Yeah. Marcus, should we talk about how you got around to using it first, or just about what it is first? What do you think?
let's talk about what it is first. I'm sure a lot of people probably have heard of it. I mean, it's pretty common when you're trying to build traction on Spotify or get in, like any sort of traction anywhere really, because let's just talk about what it is first, because I'm going to get ahead of myself. So yeah, basically what it is a service that has a collection of vetted influencers and playlist creators who have partnered with the platform. And so they're vetted in the sense that SubmitHub actually goes through and makes sure that they're legit and they have like a following and good engagement. And, they're not just like a bot Instagram account or something like that. So basically they're all in one place and you can submit your music to them. And you do that through the use of credits. And so there's standard credits and premium credits. Standard credits are free. Premium credits, obviously, you pay for. And the difference between the two is you get a higher chance of these people listening to your music thoughtfully and actually giving you feedback on it. If you use the premium credits, the standard credits are just kind of quick, like, listen to my shit. And they might listen or they might just be like, nah, I don't want to listen to it, whatever. So yeah, there's two different ways to submit to them. But the cool thing about it is, and I think we need to make it pretty clear that this is not really like a necessary tool. It's just very convenient. Like you can find the contacts for most of these people through different ways and make your own Excel spreadsheet and submit to them directly. But it takes so long to do that. And I've actually built a pretty big spreadsheet of contacts for playlisters and stuff like that. It took countless hours to do. If you use SubmitHub, they're all in one place. You can submit to 50 of these people in like 5 minutes. So that's kind of like a high level overview, I guess, of SubmitHub.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really cool because you can submit your music to like Instagram influencers and stuff as well, which is really interesting. Yeah, it's not just playlisters; it's Instagram influencers. I haven't used it for probably like 6 months, but last time I checked, that was a big part of it.
Interesting. So yeah, like why might our listeners be interested in this? And you kind of did just touch on it, that it's very convenient. But the key takeaways, I guess, are you might land yourself on some great Spotify playlists or music blogs or whatever, maybe influencers, page or something, and essentially get more eyeballs on your music is really the end goal of that. It's exposure.
Totally. Yeah. If Spotify's your goal, there's tons of playlisters on there, and it's really cool because it breaks them down. It shows you how many followers the playlist has, and it shows you their stats too. Like it'll say higher than normal engagement or lower than normal, or it'll give you little warnings on some people sometimes to say like that they have a high rate of approval of submissions, but they don't share that many, or they have a high rate of approval and it takes a long time for them to share it, for example. And so, it kind of gives you like a quality breakdown on who you're submitting to, which is really helpful. But yeah, why you might use it is just basically to have a convenient way to submit your music to a lot of different people who can help you build algorithmic traction on Spotify, or just get more eyeballs and listens on your music through, like I said, through Instagram influencers or Spotify playlists or, whatever else, blogs as well, like you said. And the cool thing is you can undertake Spotify campaigns with independent companies. There's countless of them. And like you'll hear on the next episode with Joel Wanasek, some of them are better than others. But those are usually pretty big spends. And the cool thing about SubmitHub is you can spend $5, I think it is the lowest amount. You know what I mean? You can buy like 6 credits for $5 and just test it and see what happens.
Right.
So it's really budget friendly. You can spend thousands of dollars, or you can spend $5 or $20 on it and see what you get. So
let's talk about how you wound up using it.
So I had heard about it when we were still touring all the time. We used a couple different playlist pitching companies that were quite a bit more expensive, and we had pretty good results from them. But I did hear about it then and was kind of intrigued. I started working on some music on my own and decided I wanted to release it and just see if I could, build some Spotify traction. That was what I was focused on. I wasn't focused on anything else, which is not necessarily a great approach if you're trying to build a real career in music. But it was more of an experiment to see what I could do on Spotify. And so I knew I wanted to hit a lot of playlisters. And so, like I said, I started building an Excel spreadsheet by going through playlists that were relevant to me on Spotify and finding their contact info, which is a huge pain in the ass, but definitely possible. So yeah, I spent, I don't even know how many hours building this spreadsheet and submitting to people. And I found that a lot of the people I was submitting to wanted me to pay to get on their playlist. And I was like, well, this is kind kind of bullshit. I don't want to pay them. Like that's like modern payola, right? It's kind of trash. So I decided to give SubmitHub a shot. I just, because I know that there's no payola there. I mean, you're buying credits, but you're not paying. Those people don't have to put your music on their playlist. You know what I mean? You're not paying them. You're not bribing them to put your music on their playlist. So yeah, I just wanted to give it a shot. I just wanted to try another way to get on Spotify playlist, basically. And I knew about the service, and I didn't want to spend $400 to $500 US on the low end on a Spotify campaign when I didn't even know if there was any sort of, proof of concept yet.
Yeah, proof of concept. That's a good idea. Like you're like seeing if there's some legs to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Without spending that's a lot of money to spend on something that it's like throwing money in the wind because you have no idea what's going to happen. So that's why I really like SubmitHub too, earlier on in your releasing career, is that you can start out small. It's just a great way to start out small.
Right. That makes a ton of sense.
I should actually preface, or not, I guess I'm not prefacing it now, but I should also say a small disclaimer that SubmitHub might work for you and it might not. I don't want to sound like I'm like, everybody go use SubmitHub because it's great. I think it has its merits and it can be convenient, which is great, but don't go into it expecting that you're going to have crazy success on it, because that's just not reality in the music industry.
Right. Yeah. And it's a strategy, right? Like maybe if, maybe spending more money on another more expensive service is the better call for your situation. Like it all depends. Like, as you'll find out, this still takes time and effort to use SubmitHub even. So it's not like a magic bullet. There never is.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the main differences between hiring like a playlisting service and using SubmitHub is it's SubmitHub is cheaper, but you're doing the work. Whereas if you hire like some sort of a playlist pushing company, I don't know, you basically pay them and they do everything, right? You're kind of hands off at that point. So I think that's another thing to realize about SubmitHub is they're basically giving you the tools to do the work yourself. They're just making it really easy for you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and if you look up, like if you did some research, which you should, on SubmitHub, you'll probably find a lot of people saying that it didn't work for them.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to do this episode is because it did work for you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can figure out what some of the key things you did in your campaigns that helped. Aside from, like, I think the music you put out was really good. So that's going to help.
Thank you.
But what else, so why don't we maybe jump into what building a campaign looks like with SubmitHub? Like, what are some of the required steps that you have to fill out, kind of thing? Because they're going to have like a little bit of a format for you to comply to.
Yeah. So like I said, I haven't used it in probably 5 or 6 months. So this is going to be a little bit of a high level overview also. But yeah, basically what you do is if you have a single that you're going to release, you go on SubmitHub, you make a profile, the standard shit for something like that. And then you start compiling links for your song. You write a little blurb about it, a little bio for yourself, which you should have anyway, but you upload your bio. And you just, you fill out that kind of, the basic information on your song. And you actually do make a little elevator pitch for it because the people you submit to do see that. And it's something super short. Like I think for my first one, I had actually produced it while I was on tour in Europe. And so I wrote that in the elevator pitch. I was like, oh, this is, done in the green room right before I played a show in Europe. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And so, yeah, I think writing a compelling elevator pitch is pretty important actually on this because they're getting so many submissions and having, really good art too. But yeah, basically you just build a little profile for your single and for your artist and then you buy some credits and then you go to town. It's pretty straightforward to set it up.
So I think that like that pitch thing is probably quite important, right? Because like when they receive this package, say they get 5 different submissions from people just like yourself, which one are they going to like, how are they going to know which one to spend the time to check out? What's going to convince them to click the button and also prime them to click the button and expect to like it, right? Like that's important.
Totally. That's the thing. Like that's a good way of putting it. They're getting it's basically like when radio gets your package, through DMDS, it's kind of the same thing. The single art is really important, or album art is really important because that's what they're seeing first. So it's got to look, they need to know what they're getting into just by looking at it.
It's probably the most important.
Yeah. They see your elevator pitch, obviously. And then they start, they see your social links too. And it just needs to look like a full package. It needs to look serious, right? Because the thing is with the premium credits, they do have to listen to your song. Like they have to listen to, I think, at least 20 seconds of it or something like that and give you feedback. So at least you're guaranteed that they're going to listen to it. But the thing is, like, that was such a great point that you brought up. They need to go into it kind of thinking that they're going to like it. You know what I mean? If they see like really shitty artwork and just a crappy pitch, they're probably going to go into it thinking that it's going to suck and they might not even care.
Yeah. And that it's relevant, you know, because all of these playlists are for certain genres, and like sometimes that's really specific, you know?
Oh yeah. That, actually that's a really good point too, because I think the single most important thing that I found when pitching my stuff through SubmitHub was pitching to the right people. And obviously you want to do that anyway, because you don't want to be wasting credits, right? Like if you have like, say, a lo-fi hip hop song and if you're submitting it to like a pop blog, I would say it's probably not going to work. And so that's just a waste of money. You're just throwing money out the window. So yeah, that is really important. And actually SubmitHub's got some great articles too on how to use the service. There's a few different techniques that people use. Some throw spaghetti at the wall, which is just, you know, spending hundreds of dollars and submitting to everybody. But it actually has a really great filter for the people that you're submitting to. So you can narrow it down by genre, you know, Spotify playlisters or Instagram influencers if you want. And then it also tells you the success rate of the genre that you're submitting with. So it'll say like, doesn't usually submit or doesn't usually approve rock songs.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to waste a credit on someone like that. So that's really important, is submitting to the people who are actually going to be interested in what you're submitting. You don't just want to be spamming like rant, because you don't want to be spamming your stuff because it's not going to work. It's a waste of money. And
I would say probably verge on the side of being like too specific, because I think all of us naturally have this tendency to think that everybody's going to love our music.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably not true though.
Yeah. And it's really important to definitely see. This is the thing. I would rather have, you know, submit to like 5 or 6 really high quality blogs or playlisters that have a track record of approving songs in my genre than having like 20 blogs who have a high approval rate, dabble in multiple genres, because the people that are listening to that probably don't really, the chances of liking your stuff are very slim because it's too broad, right? So yeah, I think, and actually that's another one, is it'll show the approval rate of the blog or the playlist or whatever that you're submitting to. Obviously, if they have a high approval rate, that's not necessarily a great thing, because that means they're just saying yes to everything and oversharing. People probably don't really give a shit about it. I tended to go for the ones with the really low approval rates, which can also be a dangerous game to play. but yeah, I don't know, if you have faith in your stuff. I found the most success with going for those ones that had like sub 5% approval rate.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't get all of them, of course, but the ones I did get were usually that was the best traction. Because it was very specific and most of their stuff was really high quality and they were just way more legit, I found, than some of the other ones.
I did want to circle back to that. Your pitch for that first song had a story behind it, which I think is like always a great marketing move, even for like your bio, actually, especially for your bio as a band. Don't tell them what you are, tell them who you are, kind of thing, like how you got there, like a story. Just make it interesting. People like to read stories.
Totally.
And then, did you use primarily or all premium credits, or what was your strategy there?
Yeah, I use both, because you get standard credits as part, like standard credits are free, right? They replenish every 4 hours, I think. You get two standard credits every 4 hours. So, I mean, if you're getting them for free, you may as well use them. I also, those ones were kind of like the Hail Mary ones a little bit. I would throw them at blogs that were maybe a little bit outside of, or Spotify playlists that were a little outside of what I was going for, just because they're free anyway. It didn't matter. But I would say probably 80 to 90% of what I used were premium credits. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
The great thing about premium credits too is if the people, they have 48 hours to listen to your music, and if they don't listen to it, you just get a refund on your credit.
That's great.
Yeah.
There we go.
So there's no real, I mean, it's not that risky. It's kind of great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I feel like I'm a shill for SubmitHub right now. Like, I don't want to be seen as that. I had good success with it, and I figure other people might as well.
So. Well, yeah, again, to circle back, like if you go onto a Reddit forum, it's probably a bunch of people saying it's not good. So most people don't have success, I think, but maybe I'm wrong on that, speculating. But, keep that in mind. This is a success story. So like there's let's call it the survivorship bias, I think. And people like that gets influenced by every industry is influenced by the survivor bias. It's like, well, this band got signed and became huge, so that's the path for us. It's like, well, what about every other band? Like that label only signs one band every 5 years. Like you can't aim for that.
Totally. Yeah, no, that is a really great point, because when I was first researching SubmitHub, and this is the thing, Reddit, I love Reddit, but some of the, I don't want to be too, I don't know. Some of the threads on there though, I'm like, that is not, I don't believe, I don't know. To me, I'm like, who's writing that? Because I don't think that that's reality. And SubmitHub was that was a big one. There were so many negative reviews on there of SubmitHub, and people being like, oh, it's bullshit. I got like 5% approval on all of my, credits. So, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm like, oh, I got, I had such great success, but I was fortunate to have like a very high approval rate, which was really cool and totally unexpected. But this is the thing, the people with the really low approval rates, I'm wondering if it was the strategy, if they were, applying to places that were not gonna, or submitting to places that were probably not gonna approve them anyway, based on genre or the length of the song or whatever.
Right.
Or if maybe the product wasn't quite there yet. So that's the thing, like, there are a lot of people who have had no success with it, and a lot of people that have had great success with it. It's just really important to keep it objective and know that it's not like a surefire or like a silver bullet. But at the same time, don't take those Reddit examples as gospel, because there's a lot of factors that go into something like this. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, should definitely address like the product first. Like maybe the song's not resonating with people. Like, 'cause somebody had to listen to it with a premium credit. So like they just didn't like it. It's a hard fact. Oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point too. It's just someone did have to listen to it with a premium credit. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they, I'm sure there's people who just don't actually have any sort of motivation to approve things, and they're just doing it because they get paid. But I don't know. I think that also gets reflected in the reviews that you see for those kind of things. Like SubmitHub's with its internal review, it's pretty good, because those people kind of get filtered out. If they're shitty, they don't really last very long on the platform, it doesn't seem. So yeah.
Did you harvest the contacts you made through successful SubmitHubs onto your spreadsheet?
Yeah, that's the cool thing too. And I'm sure that SubmitHub probably doesn't want people to do this, but yeah, I mean, and I used it for every song I released. So I don't want to make it sound like I just had a bunch of, and the thing is, I tweaked it every time I released a single, and I had better success with each single. I had higher approval rates with each one. And so, yeah, the thing is, if you submit to a blog and get approved and they share it, for the most part, you want to be acknowledging that on social media and thanking them, maybe send them an email to say, hey, thanks so much. And you make a personal connection with them. So I would add that to my spreadsheet. And, the next time I was probably just emailing them directly. But I did use SubmitHub, like I said, for every one, and submitted to the same places multiple times through SubmitHub. But wherever I could leverage a personal connection out of it, 100%, because the next time you submit, even if it is through SubmitHub, they're going to know who you are, right? And that, I think, is really important with SubmitHub campaigns also, is to make sure that you're consistent with them. If you have success with someone, submit to them again, right? Because chances are pretty high that you're probably going to get another approval with them, and you'll start to build a personal relationship. And there were even some small labels that had some pretty great releases in the genre, actually, but there were some small labels that I got approvals through, and then ended up talking to them, like emailing back and forth with compilations that they were putting out, like vinyl and stuff, which is really cool.
That is cool.
So yeah, you just leverage the personal connections wherever possible.
If you go back to any of our episodes about radio, we talk about this, how it's like this long networking game. The first single is really just to like open up that door and allow you to meet people. And then the second single, hopefully those people liked you the first time. And now they're like, oh, freaking the boys put out a new song. Let's check it out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that is the desired effect.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's just really important to leverage the personal connections wherever you can in any aspect of this industry, for sure. And it's no different with something like SubmitHub. And that's the other thing too, is you don't want to just get an approval and then be like, sweet, done. You know what I mean? And SubmitHub has a chat function too. So when you get an approval, it automatically starts a chat with the company or the whatever, the influencer, playlist or whatever. So you can talk to them directly, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they might request more assets or something from you, right?
Exactly. They do. They usually do. They say like, oh, if you have anything else to go, like if you have a video or something, like send the link here. It's just another way to make a personal connection that will serve you later on when you're releasing your next single.
You kind of answered my next question. Actually, you totally did. I was going to ask, like, was there a compounding effect with follow-ups? And there totally was. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. That was the biggest part. And I should also note that this wasn't the only thing that I was doing either. This was just a small part of the Spotify campaign. I would say actually probably half of my campaign was still based around emailing people directly that I'd kind of harvested contacts through. So yeah, this wasn't just like I bought, $50 worth of credits and that was the promotion for the song. It was like a grind for sure to be personally emailing contacts and, reaching out to people all the time. This is just another kind of aspect that worked and was convenient for sure.
Right. Yeah. I just checked and your top single has 172,000 streams on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That one actually got added to a Spotify editorial. I think it's still on there, which is really cool. And I think a big part of that was some of the playlists that I landed through SubmitHub actually.
Right.
So yeah, no, it was good. I mean, like I haven't released a song through there in a long time, but it was a cool experiment for sure. And it helped me to kind of figure out how Spotify worked in 2020. You know what I mean? It was a successful experiment and a lot of fun too to do it.
And I think the hilarious part is that you did it secretly. Like not many people knew you were doing this.
No, I only think like 5 or 6 people knew. Obviously you did, my girlfriend knew, but that's pretty much it. Actually, Graham from Carmana, he knows. So if he's listening to this, he knew about it.
He's in the inner circle.
but honestly, yeah, that was a big part of the experiment too, was that I wanted it to be not secret. I just didn't want to be, I kind of wanted to do it in private, the experiment. You know what I mean? I didn't want other people to see it. And it wasn't like a fear of failure necessarily. It was just that I wanted to see if I could do it without relying on my family and friends who are obviously completely supportive always. I wanted to see if like random people who don't give a shit about me, if it would work. And
right.
So yeah, SubmitHub, it definitely helped.
Yeah, because it's funny because obviously you would have got more follows and more shares and stuff like that with your support network. So next single, man, do it.
Yeah, I think I have a shitload of them just sitting there waiting to go. So I'm sure I'll probably release another one at some point here. But at this point, this is actually don't do what I did because now I've lost all of that momentum.
Right.
Like if I had kept releasing, I would guess that it probably would have started to compound a little bit. I would hope so anyway, right? But I just stopped. And so now trying to build that up again is going to be difficult. But yeah, I think a takeaway from that is consistency is really important when you're releasing music. Just keep going. And I think I release the songs like every month and a half, I think, apart. And that was a great release schedule for me. It was just enough time that the playlist that I got kind of started to fall off those playlists, and algorithmically it started to kind of fall off that as well. But another single came in and gave me another boost. So that kind of was like a nice sweet spot for me, 6 to 8 weeks kind of. And I think that's enough time that people are not annoyed by you when you're submitting to them all the time, emailing them. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about that, a release schedule like that, which as we've heard from like some really smart people like Jesse Cannon, that's like a pretty good consistent schedule. So for somebody that was making music like yourself, which was almost exclusively laptop based, like production inside the computer could be done in the green room at a show, right? Like, that's a pretty attainable schedule for like big production rock band. That's tricky getting a song done inside of every 8 weeks and ready for release, right? So you would have to batch record a bunch of songs and then focus on this release schedule from there, which is definitely a great way to go about it. Not that you can't do a song every 8 weeks, but it's just like it's going to be stressful changing gears so often, I think.
Yeah, and it's tough to keep that up when obviously we're not now, but it's tough to keep that up when we're touring too.
Yes.
Because as a rock band, you're probably out on the road, and that's the thing. How are you going to keep that schedule up, recording, and like that's exhausting. So yeah, I think batching batching anything in your productive life is great. But yeah, batching your music, like recording an album and then trickling it out, is a perfect way to make sure you can maintain that kind of consistent release schedule. And yeah, I don't know. It also might have been the genre that I was releasing in, but I found that was the only real way to have staying power in that genre, was to keep having new stuff coming out. I think if I had done like an EP or an album, no one would have given a shit, to be honest. They would have been like, great, there's your 5 songs. Like, and it's so hard to promote that, right? Like promoting an album on SubmitHub is quite difficult because they can only listen to one song.
Yeah, you can't ask people to sit there and listen for an hour. So
yeah, exactly.
It's kind of interesting. I'm just realizing that like Spotify's are kind of the holy grail, or playlists are kind of the holy grail on Spotify.
Yeah.
I never listen to them, almost. I'm like almost always search up the artist, go and listen on their page and like, crush an album there, or just click from like their most popular song and start listening from the top. So artists get a lot of plays from me because I come and listen to 5-10 at a time kind of thing.
Right.
When you're just releasing a single at the beginning, nobody's doing that, right? Like, and if they come to and they listen to the one song, they're going to leave immediately after, right? Because there's no follow-up stuff. So it's interesting that compounding continues in another way as your catalog grows. And I feel like you probably need at least 5 songs to really become a page that somebody's going to search up just to listen to you for like their lunch break or something, I mean,
that's the thing. It's a tough one with Spotify because on one hand, editorials are kind of like the holy grail of playlists. Obviously, everybody wants to get the editorials, and rightfully so. They're great tools. Obviously, you're in the ears of Spotify themselves. It's important. I'm kind of 50-50. I would say I listen to some editorials, but a very select few of them. I would say most of my music that I discover is through the algorithm. Like I'll play like an album from an artist and it'll keep playing. So that was kind of what I was going for with mine, was I wanted algorithmic growth. And the only real way, I mean, no one really knows how to do that without fail. But a big part of that is to be on a shitload of different playlists, have people who are engaged in listening to your stuff and enjoying it. So that was kind of where I just want to be on a whole bunch of playlists came from. Like, I want to try to appeal to the algorithm. And the thing is, if you're only, this is kind of turning into a Spotify episode, I guess, but that's okay. If you're only focused on editorials, that can also be dangerous because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. You'd hope that if you're on a bunch of editorials, you're probably doing well algorithmically as well. But if you, which you will, get dropped off those editorial playlists and you have no sort of algorithmic backup, your plays can just nosedive, right?
Yes.
It all depends on your strategy and how, like, what kind of growth you're trying to attain on Spotify too. And that'll kind of inform, your promotion strategy through SubmitHub or whatever it is. But yeah, that one single that did really well. Like I said, a big part of that was the playlist that I got SubmitHub for sure. Definitely was important. And I got those ads really quickly too, which made a big difference. Like it was within a couple days of releasing.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think that kind of equips our listeners with the tools to at least attempt a pretty solid campaign on there,
Yeah, or to determine if it's for them too, because it might not be for you. Then that's important to note as well, and that's okay. But if it sounds like something that might work for you, then yeah, I would say it's definitely worth giving it a shot, even with a small amount of money.
Yep, definitely.
Nothing wrong with that.
And those free credits are kind of like that's something to consider.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if I mentioned the free credits, they don't have to.
Yeah, there's no requirement from them to listen or give feedback or anything.
Okay, cool. I just couldn't remember if I said that or not. But yeah, great way to get your feet wet though, and it costs you nothing.
Okay, so that wraps that up. Now, if anybody asks you, Marcus, about your experience doing that, you can just send them this episode so you don't have to keep explaining it to people. But let's give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers. If you enjoy our podcast and want to support us so we continue getting great guests and doing all this stuff, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just head to our website, yourbandsucksatbusiness.com, and click the support us button. And there's some awesome perks that come along with that. Now, our top tier supporters also get a shout out on the episode. And here they are. We got Evan Miller of the Wild Romantics, Chris Erickson of Scove. He's also our podcast editor, and he just put out an album that he produced and I think co-wrote. Did a lot of the writing on anyways, by Madeline Day that Marcus, you would love. I'll send you a link.
Actually, I listened to a bit of it. It's great.
And then we got Bernard from the Enrons, Ryan from Venom and Spirit, Grady from Leather Apron Revival, Lucas from Vogue Villains, Graham from Carmana, Kevin from Supreme Remedy, Rob from Rob Elo, Tayfance, and Carland from Mulligan. All right. Thank you all. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week with the Big 5-0 episode and our special guest, Joel Wanasek.